Hi everyone, this is Zita speaking. My pronouns are she and her, and I have the privilege of serving as one of the leadership team advisors. Um, so I will be introducing our team, which which was launched in 2024. But before I do that, I would like to share a brief background into why. Uh, I would like to share a brief background into why we chose this theme. Um, so I believe that you would all agree with me. I'm sorry, Kira, can you share the slides?
Yeah, hold on one second. Sorry about that.
So, you all agree with me that despite the fact that the internet has undoubtedly become very beneficial to us all, such that we are able to access knowledge and information and connect with others from different parts of the world, and we are also able to share our stories. It has also brought about new challenges, and some of it being the replication of the same systems of oppression that exist offline, including patriarchy, racism, and inequality. I also believe that all of us on this space right now have contributed in one way or the other to making the internet what it is today. Whether you are an activist, whether you're a researcher, whether you're a developer or a writer, we all have contributed one way or the other to creating the internet. So the knowledge that we share online today shapes which narratives are being registered, assessed, and remembered in the future. One may ponder which stories will define tomorrow and whose voices will be heard. Now more than ever, we think that there is an urgent need to create a more inclusive space online to ensure that marginalized voices can be registered and heard online. However, as I speak to you today, marginalized people, including trans, cis women, non-binary, and queer people, continue to face rampant harassment and violence in digital spaces. I don't like to cite this example, but just recently, some of us at Art and Feminism faced this, we experienced this kind of violence through Zoom bombing. Uh, in addition to these harassment, AI and algorithms are reinforcing the same real world biases. So we think that a feminist internet will challenge all these norms and create digital spaces that promote equity, representation, and the right to be heard, especially for marginalized groups. And hence, the reason we chose this theme for the theme for this year's campaign, which is next slide, please. Which is what would a truly feminist internet look like? Um, you might be wondering if you're an artist or you might be wondering if you're an artist, what can you contribute um, to be part of this campaign? We think that you could use your creativity to help us envision this future. Or if you are a technologist and activist, we think you could use your expertise to help build the structures and practices needed to support a truly feminist internet. And if you are a Wikipedian or a Wikimedian, we invite you to organize an art and feminism event, whether it's an editathon, a meetup, a panel, or another community-driven initiatives. Whoever you are, we invite you to join us. And we think that your voice is essential in exploring and uplifting the work of archives, collectives, and movements, already laying the groundwork for a feminist internet. And with that, I say thank you, and we look forward to seeing your amazing initiatives and events. Next slide. Back to you, Kira.
This is Kira. Thanks so much, Sita. I am now going to invite Sunshine from Whose Knowledge? Or is it Mariana from Whose Knowledge?
No, sunshine, or both. Mariana, could you share the slide? Hi, everybody. This is Sunshine. My pronouns are she, her. I am a Black woman with dreadlocks. I am based in Kampala in Uganda. I'm an African feminist, and I work with Mariana at Whose Knowledge as the Decolonizing Wikimedia program co-lead. At Whose Knowledge, our work, we like to think of our work as a global campaign, so a global feminist campaign to center the knowledge of marginalized communities who are the majority of the people on the internet. And every year, for the last 8 years, we have run the Visible Wiki Women campaign, which is our image campaign to bring as many plural images of women who are Black and brown and queer and trans and indigenous and from the global majority, as well as non-binary folks, and make those images available on Commons. So we've run this campaign under a different theme every year. Our theme this year is on It Takes a Village, finding, strengthening, and sustaining feminist community, because we recognize that we are it's feminist community that continuously saves us and also allows us to exist, especially on the internet. So that's a little bit about myself. Like I mentioned, I ran this campaign with my colleague Mariana, who will introduce herself later. But we are interested in sharing a little bit about our structured data work and what Visible Wiki Women has to do with structured data. For the last few years, what we've done is we've used the images that we've collected under the Visible Wiki Women campaign as some kind of lab to allow us to reflect and understand issues around visual data and the data gender gaps and multilinguality and accessibility and all of the biases that are embedded within Wikidata and structured data. And so we think, because we have over 20,000 images under the campaign, 20,000 and counting, we know that we have a great opportunity to be able to bring as much plurality to the data as well. So over to you, Mariana. Or is it Flavia? I'm not sure, but somebody. Yeah.
Thanks, Sunshine. Maybe. Oops. Thank you, Sunshine. Maybe Mariana can introduce herself a little bit, just because she didn't speak, and we can start with our conversation.
Okay, thank you. Mariana here, pronounced she, her. I am a white, brown Latina from South America. I am based in Uruguay. I work in Whose Knowledge since the pilot edition of the Visible Wiki Women campaign. And just working in decolonize the internet and decolonize Wikimedia from a feminist intersectional perspective based in global majority views and experiences. Yes, I am a long-term Wikimedian and free and open culture advocate. And trying to just intersect that with feminist and global South perspectives.
Thanks, Mariana. This is Flavia speaking. I'm going to quickly introduce myself. I'm just as Zita. I am lucky to be one of our leadership advisors here in Art and Feminism. I am a white Brazilian and I'm based in Portugal. I'm a Wikimedian since 2020. I also am a colleague in our Portuguese editors group, Wikidata Alex, and just very happy to be with you all here today. I just was hearing Sunshine making the introduction about the importance of structured data to the Visible Wiki Women campaign, which I am glad to collaborate for the third year in a row, and I invite you all to collaborate with this huge campaign, amazing campaign. But I will ask you, and I'm gonna ask Mariana and Sunshine to do that, but also will be nice to hear Zita. Just for us to be a little bit more specific when we talk to people, considering that maybe not everybody knows exactly what a structured data is, why it's so important that Wikidata have structured data and open and free access structured data on the internet. So I don't know which one of you want to start.
I can start. Mariana speaking here. What is structured data? What we are speaking about? We often say that structured data is at the core of how internet works, even though we don't realize or we cannot see structured data working in real time, is often behind many of the apps we use, behind maps, geographical information, catalogs, even movie reviews, recipes, pieces of information that are structured in such a way that we humans can recognize and read and see that the information is pretty well structured, but most importantly, machines can read this information in a very standard way, and we can say that machines can understood. I don't want to mean that machines can really understood things, but they can process these pieces of information and recognize that this is a movie, this is a human, this is a place situated in Uruguay, for instance. And if you think about this, is Wikidata is a huge database, a huge data linked data database actually, where a lot of different pieces of information are organized, classified, linked to each other. Wikidata is like a forest of information. If you think in the metaphor of a tree with many branches, or a mycelial network, you can also imagine that, in which every node is connected to others throughout certain rules, um, under a very basic structure, the statements that we have on Wikidata that are formed by items, properties, and values that you can use to say things about the world. For instance, you can say, Mariana Fossati is a human, is an instance of human, is a human. And then once you have that, you can, in a very structured way, continue adding information and data that is part of that domain of information, all the things that you can say about a human being, for instance. Wikidata started, if I am not wrong, in 2015, 10 or more than 10 years after Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a semi-structured data object in a way, but in a certain moment, there was a need for organize all the knowledge in a more structured way, where every little piece, not only big articles, but affirmations, statements about the reality, were organized and are continuing organized in this very structured way. But we don't do this. We do this collaboratively, and that's super interesting and cool about Wikidata. But editors cannot do whatever they want. There are specific regulations, even traditions and epistemologies informing how we organize this. There are rules, there are ontologies. So, for instance, I cannot say whatever I want about a human. I only have a subset of statements that I can add for making sense about what a human being is, or a woman, or a male, or a transgender person. So in that way, structured data, and particularly Wikidata, is not something neutral. When we are building knowledge in this way, in this very structured, regulated and way, biases, the inherent biases of this information is more important than ever, because you are also informing automated systems, you are informing applications that are using, that are being feeding by Wikidata, for instance, because Wikidata is open data. Anyone can use it, and many apps, companies, institutions are using Wikidata, and it has the capacity to amplify any bias we introduce in the data. So it is fantastic, but at the same time, it is a matter of justice to think about in the biases that Wikidata can allocate and amplify.
That's an amazing overview. I don't know if Sunshine wants to add something to that.
Thank you, Mariana, and thank you, Flavia. This is Sunshine speaking. I think Mariana has covered pretty much what structured data is, and how like the biases are encoded therein. And maybe something I would add about structured data, or I would reiterate, is just to share that it is the invisible hand that moves pieces, like the different pieces of the internet. And so that invisibility also allows for the power that structured data the power that structured data has to be insidious and invisible, and that is how we see many biases continue to show up, because especially within like Wikipedia and like the broader open knowledge frameworks, where it is really communities that build and sustain this. It is easy to assume that just because it is created more broadly by communities, and it's also invisible, that it's not capable of carrying with it certain biases. And so it's important for us to remember that because of the invisibility and the power that structured data has to shape not just our experiences of Wikipedia, but also our experiences of the internet in general, we have to continuously be cautious of that power, and be able to interrogate and challenge it, which explains why we are in this conversation with many of you who are doing that work. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I want to pass to Zita, but also to reflect art and feminism role, because we've been focusing mostly on, not necessarily, but mostly on Wikipedia for so long. And once that we decided the campaign was going to be what a truly feminist internet looked like, it felt like an evolution of this thinking to understand that we will have to talk about Wikidata, we will have to talk about data to think about a feminist internet. And so I really appreciate, Sunshine, when you talk about this invisible hand, because it's really what it's behind the scenes. And I think Wikipedia, it's our in Wikimedia movement is the most known and visible project, but what it's behind, and I think Wikidata is really behind the scenes. And recently I made this presentation about us pivoting to Wikidata, and someone asked why working with Wikidata would be more feminist. And I think that's a very interesting question. And I don't think I was able at that time to, because I was surprised and I was really on work mode, just saying what we always said. But I would love to have told him that thinking about data is thinking about objectivity. And it's such a strong and important tool for feminism and knowledge equity in general, to talk more objectively about things. It's what is behind the narratives. You can change narratives, you can change the way you tell a story, but the data is data. So I would like to hear your perspective on why it's so important for this work of decolonizing the internet and to bring a feminist perspective, why it's so important to focus on data. I would like to pass it to Zita just because she didn't speak yet, but let me know how you prefer to answer this.
Yeah, thank you, Flavia. So, to add to the Wikidata, the reason why we are focusing on Wikidata, I think one of the interesting things about Wikidata is its multilingualism nature, which makes it easy for people from other groups or communities, marginalized communities, especially indigenous communities, to contribute in their language. And I think this makes the platform more accessible compared to other open source projects. I think that it's important to bring feminism into data, into the production of data, because the feminist principles ensures that the data is gathered in a manner that is respectful to the communities that are being targeted, or the communities that this data is about. For some communities, certain data is very vital to them or is very private to them. So it will be very disrespectful to just go in and use that past colonial mindset of just describing or collecting that data without their permission, without their guidance on how to collect this data, and also without their guidance on how to store this data. So I also think that the incorporation of feminist principles um, is more inviting in the sense that if these practices are encouraged, it creates room for people to be more acceptable of the project that we are trying to invite them onto, or invite them to store their data onto these platforms. Yeah, so these are the points that I think come to mind at the moment. And Mariana Sunshine, would you like to share why you think the current gaps on Wikidata reflect a broader inequalities in knowledge production?
Yeah, I will. Can you hear me? My screen showed that I was muted. Hi, this is Sunshine speaking. Thank you for that reflection, Zita. I think that maybe an addition or something to add onto that would be that we understand that there are very like Eurocentric, racist, and patriarchal biases that are encoded within structured data and Wikidata for obvious reasons, for reasons that what is understood as knowledge and what is understood as like the dominant epistemologies are really rooted within like certain hegemonies of knowledge. And so that then gets reproduced. And so when we have tools that we are using for like structured data and tools that we are using on more broadly on Wikimedia projects, we understand that this massive processing of like of data, of information just reinforces what is already like dominant power and dominant privilege. In an example, I think in a structured data workshop or lab we did in 2023 before during Wikimania. We remember we had like this image of Sarah Maldor that we were using to just explain how structured data views Black women holding microphones across the board as musicians, regardless of whether, for example, Sarah Maldor, the image we're using is an Afro-Caribbean filmmaker, but we could see that the only ways in which data captures Black women like her holding microphones, regardless of where they are placed in the world, was as musicians and nothing else. And so that those like biases that really continue to like reign supreme within Wikidata and structured data are the reason why like feminist interventions are necessary. And we also have to acknowledge that these contributions of structured data, like we said, as an invisible hand powering Wikipedia, powering other aspects of the internet we use, have like capture our plurality as Black people, as queer people, as people who are farthest from the margins of power, very inaccurately. And so this is, I think, why it is necessary to continue to have these feminist interventions. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I wrote such a good example and easy to visualize what you're talking about. And when it comes to working with Wikidata and doing that work of, trying to create this space, decolonize and more feminist, what are the current challenges that you're facing in general with Wikidata and not only in the Visible Wiki Women campaign?
Well, starting with the Visible Wiki Women campaign, one challenge is that when we want to edit structured data for every image, and we want to name who is in the picture and make a data description of the picture, many times there are no items for that person, for instance. So you can experiment directly the gaps, the lack of information. Of course, that's an opportunity to go and create an item for this person. But immediately when you create that item, you start thinking, okay, but where are it's the same that the same challenge we have on Wikipedia. Where are the sources of information that updated sources of information that speak about this person? What is what are the boundaries? Because how much we can maybe we can become stalkers on the internet looking for data to create a data narrative of this particular person. And maybe she or them are a person under the risk because they are a human rights defender. If we input outdated information there about their gender identity, for instance, maybe we can create confusion because we always have to keep in mind that every piece of information we add, it doesn't remain just there in a Wikidata, in an obscure Wikidata item that you can eventually browse and find on Wikidata. It's probably feeding other systems, other platforms. For instance, the Paulina project, who is a database for all creators and creative works, if that takes information from Wikidata, or Scholia, another platform that takes from Wikidata, and many others, Google itself, AI, because the chatbots are using structured data, and particularly Wikidata. And maybe I can show here the slide about that. And if our biases and our mistakes and our not up-to-date information can be amplified, because, and this is a slide where I am showing what does Wikipedia, Wikidata, and structured data got to do with AI, with large language models. And this is a work, a chart with three columns, where you can see how ChatGPT, Perplexity, and AI overviews are using different systems, different sources of information. And for ChatGPT, Wikipedia, and probably with Wikipedia, they are referring to the whole Wikimedia system, including Wikidata, are pulling data. The ChatGPT is pulling data from there in the training, but also in the fact-checking. So our work has the capacity to amplify into the systems that most people are using, where they have questions when they want to find information online. So I just wanted to share that slide. Okay. So the challenge is to keep in mind all that chain when you edit a single fact or item on Wikidata. Also, the lack of certain important properties, or also conflicts around how you describe something, a place. What are the indigenous names of different places? We know that behind naming a place there is a colonial issue, a colonial imposition many times, like, let's say, Israel renaming all the places on Palestine, and I am sure there is a struggle in the Wikidata community, right? So potential conflicts, potential discussions, even yes, how do we organize our community to have a voice in the discussions on how we make these data narratives on Wikidata and connect that with other systems.
Thanks, Mariana. This is Flavia speaking. We talk a lot about how Wikidata and Wiki projects are connected to the off-Wiki world, to the bigger picture, to AI, etc. But this is a question for you, because I also have this feeling that many experienced editors on Wikipedia are not so aware of the importance of connecting the project itself, for example, connecting Wikipedia to Wikidata. And you were talking about the campaign, the Visible Wiki Women campaign, and because I participate with this project, that is the Illustrathon, it's for those who are listening, it's a marathon. It's an open call for artists to illustrate articles of women and non-binary people. And I feel it's so clear to see that one thing leads to another. I can never do a campaign only on Commons. It's impossible, because I start on Commons and then I see that this item is not on Wikidata, and for me to put on Wikipedia, it has to be on Wikidata to better connect everything and for people to find and categorize everything. But many times my community face some challenges of the wiki community not understanding why we are connecting Wikipedia to Wikidata. And I just want to know, this is a personal question, I just want to know if you guys feel that, if Zita already felt that the wiki community it's not so aware about the importance of Wikidata.
I think there are some Wikidata fans out there that they know a lot, that are super willing to share. There are feminists editing Wikidata a lot. But yes, this need of making all these connections, connecting all the dots. Yes, it's not easy to be aware of that, and we see that in the Visible Wiki Women campaign, throughout the interconnection between an image and Wikidata throughout structured data is not always easy for people to realize that they can do that connection, how even just to add a category to an image, and then after the category, okay, but maybe there is an item that I can connect. And it's very important because, for instance, structured data is behind the improvement of the search tool on Wikimedia Commons. So today we can find more images more easily, more relevant because there is structured data over the images. And this is something that all Wikimedians, non-Wikimedians, users in general enjoy, benefit from. So I think that we need to think on that. We need to think on how to make the images and files and knowledge discovery much better. Doing this connection. It's about that. It's not just a nerdy thing to obsessively complete everything. It's about creating a real benefit for everyone. And if we work seriously in filling the gaps, avoiding biases, reflecting on representation, the benefit will be not only individual but collective.
And this is Sunshine speaking. And to your point, Flavia, I think it's important for us to constantly we like to frame our work with, or situate it within feminist theory, and to think about how we don't live single issue lives. And I also give this example of how we try to bring feminism to the Wikipedia movement and for the Wikimedia movement, and to take the Wikimedia movement to the feminist movement, because sometimes we find that the work, like the collaborations are not coming together, because the Wikimedia movement does not understand why these feminists are telling them about knowledge plurality and telling them about representation and gender visibility gaps. And the feminists are also, some feminists are saying, they are not, it's not, the urgency for that is not there yet, right? The urgency for knowledge justice doesn't exist yet, because again, feminists are trying to save all of us from all of the oppressions, all the isms, and all the phobias. So we also, like, this conversation around opportunities for collaboration, we need to situate it in the fact that the global majority world already creates the technologies that we use, and the data. I mean, when you talk about the fact that takes the bleeding in Congo for us to hold the font that we have, or for the Kenyan data labelers and content moderators that are part of how we exist or use the internet safely, and the really exploitative ways in which technology exploits the global majority, then it makes sense that we are interested in connecting the work and connecting all of these different aspects of the work that we are doing to be steeped into community knowledges. And that's also part of why we think that we always must approach this from a community-led point of view. So communities being able to allow us to collaborate with them, but also from a perspective of reparations and what the existence of technology has done to exploit our people and our lands, and why then technology must, Wikidata included in all of that, must also represent and show the existence and the plurality of the people who actually make it work, again, invisibly. So yeah, those are some of the reflections we have regarding how we can connect the feminist theory, but also the praxis to the work that then feeds structured data and Wikidata, and why we must continue to frame it as such. Yeah.
To add to what Mariana and Sunshine have said, Flavia, I think the question you raise is a very important question. I think the main reason why Wikidata was created was to centralize the different Wikimedia projects, because previously, when, let's say, an article in English needs to be updated, let's say there's an article about the president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, that needs to be updated in English, then Wikimedians have to go back and edit the other language versions, which made work so tedious for everybody. And so I think the Wikidata community, or the people that created Wikidata, saw an opportunity for us to work smarter. And so I believe that there are so many tools available at our disposal to work smarter in various projects. So for instance, there's this tool called Listeria on Wikidata that people can use to create a list or curate a list of articles that they can work on Wikipedia. And there's also a data box tool that you can put in a Wikipedia article, and it can draw the data from Wikidata about a biography or an article. And so there are so many ways that, so many tools that we can use to make our work more efficient and more interesting. And I think that if people knew about these tools, if people knew about how to use these tools, it would be very helpful to them so that they don't have to be doing a lot of double work in their projects. And I wanted to go back to the question about incorporating feminist approaches in the way we organize our events. I had the opportunity to attend one of your events, Whose Knowledge, that is the data soiree in Wikimania. One thing I found interesting about that session is that it was very interactive, and I think there were certain approaches. The way that you went about organizing that event was quite unique. And so I would like to ask, can you walk us through the process involved in organizing your data, decolonizing data, structured data work, and the data soiree session? What went into the process? What feminist approaches were adopted to make that session very interesting and interactive?
Mariana speaking here. First of all, and thank you, Sita, for the question and for attending the data soiree and contributing to the data soiree. I can speak a little bit about the process that led us to the data soiree, and maybe Sunshine can speak a little bit about the feminist design. The data soiree is just a step of a continued work around decolonizing structured data that we started in 2021 with a conversation online in the midst of the pandemic with activists, techies, data experts, Wikimedians, about this idea of decolonized structured data, and a principle of organization for that was to have to have a diversity of backgrounds and experiences, including people that are not that familiar with Wikidata or structured data, but can bring decolonial perspective, feminist perspectives, languages perspectives. Then after creating that conversational framing for Wikimania 2023, we say, okay, we need to deep dive into this because ourselves and friends and allies and partners, maybe we are not speaking the same vocabulary here. And we need to combine technical aspects with the decolonizing framing in practical ways. So we convene with people working in different aspects of structured data and Wikidata, and we used examples to try to unpack and understand, including visible Wiki women, to understand in a deeper way the issue. And finally, we said, okay, but we are editing structured data all the time in the Visible Wiki Women campaign, but we don't know if all the editors, participants, organizers are aware about this, are aware about the enormous amount of work behind all the connections we were speaking before between Wikidata, Wikipedia, Wikimedia Commons throughout structured data. And we said, okay, let's make a soiree, a hands-on workshop, participatory, feminist, to go and work with a set of images to learn in practice, because maybe, okay, many of us know how to edit Wikidata, but how to do it with intentionality, that was the question, right?
Well, this is Sunshine speaking. I think Mariana has covered majority of it, of what we did and the intentionality behind it. And I would like to add that we were also intentional about who was joining the space. So feminists from the global majority, mostly Africa, and we had some participants from Latin America and Asia. And just because we wanted to steep the conversation in the global majority world, and so also like work and collaborate with Wikimedians and non-Wikipedians, some of them who are getting a Wiki account for the first time, to be able to do this work. The other aspect of it is the other aspect we did in terms of like planning it was to kind of recognize where we are situated, which is in Kenya, and have like a Kenyan feminist tell us about like the local context of Kenyan the tech industry in Kenya and the exploitation behind that. And how that has impacted the way in which young people and labor is exploited, like I had mentioned earlier. And also, finally, really consent and making sure that people are aware that that in trying to create Wikidata items, or in trying to, we are not doxing people, or like we are not digging up so much information about the images that we are trying to highlight, that then it becomes unsafe, or that then it exposes people in ways that might be considered harmful. And it is also like an ongoing thing. It's part of work that we started in 2021, 2023, and we are hoping that we will continue to collaborate and bring many and create more Wikidata items, and also continue to work with and community with the people that were meeting for the first time, and some of them who are already part of our larger community. Yeah.
It sounds amazing. And do you plan to do, I think it's two questions. First, do you plan to do that again? And what was the direct result from the soiree?
I'm sorry, this is Kira speaking. I think one of our Spanish interpreters is in the wrong channel right now. Flavia, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I wanted to know from Mariana and Sunshine if they plan to do another soiree, and what was the result from the one that they already did.
We have no immediate plans, but the data soiree is a methodology, is a work that we can do in partnership. So we are open to new plans. We are open to share how we did it. If anyone else is interested in doing another one, it's an open thing. We just shared a report. So maybe I can share the screen and show the report. Okay, so let me share once again. Here is. So you can use the QR or the short link to download it. So in the report, you can read more in depth what are the results, but the immediate results were, okay, a set of new Wikidata items and structured data added to Visible Wiki Women, not massively, because the work was more about do it with intentionality, with reflection. So I think that the immediate effect was to consolidate a community, especially a community led by African women. So we need to recognize here Candy, Sandra, Pelagia, Bukola, Shipasha, many others that are doing this work or very interested, and the connection also between African feminists and African feminist Wikimedians was truly fertile, in terms of potential projects. So right now, actually, we are supporting and accompanying some Wikidata projects, even in crossover campaign with Art+Feminism, even at the local level. So I can say that the fertilization, pollination of new projects, community strengthen, and a deep reflection that is available in the summary report you can access and read and share. So please do.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mariana. We should be wrapping up, but there's one last thing that I would like to mention, and maybe you can just make a comment about it, about the podcast you had, Whose Voices, that I really, really like it, and I want to put it in the chat for those who don't know, where you interview a lot of people in different topics around structured data. And I just want you to briefly share the main learnings from interviewing people about this topic on your podcast.
Okay, I can go ahead because Mariana has, so Mariana can get a sip of water. This is Sunshine speaking. Like Flavia mentioned, we have a podcast called Whose Voices, Whose Knowledge, Whose Voices, get it? We are creative like that, which really is our way of exploring multimodal ways also of sharing knowledge. And in those conversations we've spoken to activists, community builders, people who are interested in the work we do, but also people who are already like collaborating with us or are in community with us. For instance, Kira and I had a conversation on the podcast in 2023 on Wikidata. And in those interviews, we have had like many both interventions, but also questions and inquiries that are coming for us. For instance, that our community has for us, talking about just the key principle being nothing about us without us, which is essentially that communities must lead and meaningfully co-create, and also for us at Whose Knowledge, we think of ourselves as part of our community, of the communities that we work with, and not essentially people who are going to community to work with them, because we also broadly, we are translocal and we belong to different parts of the community. So we've had a lot of people that we've shared with talk to us about the kind of like capacity building that is needed, right, to be able to do this work on Wikidata and structured data. Communities of archivists who are interested in how they bring community archives to Wikidata, and also especially from the global majority, where a lot of our knowledge is also oral histories. We've had conversations with people who are interested in how we do those kinds of like oral citations. And finally, and I'm going to just pivot here and talk about power and data governance. It's very important in the conversations that we've had that has come up, things that have come up around. We need to have more people from diverse communities. Global majority people have a say within like data governance and data governance infrastructures. So as much as we don't do advocacy work at Whose Knowledge within the data governance movement, we think that this work and also we are in partnership with many organizations and collectives that do this work. It's important for us to be able to participate so that decisions around what happens to our data are more democratized, and so that we're also building with the people who have the power to kind of dictate what happens to our data. So in summary, in many words, we know that for sure the things that we continue to learn from our communities through the podcast is that there are no single narratives. Our existence is plural, and therefore the data that we create and the Wikidata items that are created or curated must continue to represent the plurality of us. And that is work that's going to be done over time, maybe not in our lifetime, but we really are happy to continue to be in conversation, right? Whether on the podcast, whether on a Zoom, whether in reports, whether in data soirees, whether in editathons, but continuously collaborating, I think is the running theme. So yay, feminist community, I guess that's the point. So yeah, thank you so much.
Beautiful, Sunshine. I think we can open to some questions. Kira, how are we the time? How much time do we have for questions?
This is Kira. We probably have time for a couple questions. If there are some in the room, you can use the raise hand function, or if you feel more comfortable typing your question in the chat, you're also welcome to do that.
Don't be shy.
So as people might be thinking about some of their questions, I can share that we're going to have a follow-up session to this conversation today to really, make it applicable. So we are inviting you to join us, if you can, next Friday, so a week from today. And we're really going to get back together and get down to business, really. We're going to take this conversation and we're going to turn it into an editing session. So if you're already a well-experienced Wikimedian within Wikidata, or if you're just getting started, all various experiences are welcomed. We'd be really excited for you to join our editing session next week. Of course, feel free to invite your friends and colleagues, and we would really look forward to taking a lot of this very rich conversation and putting it directly into some editing. So hopefully, you'll be able to join us there. And we'll send that link in our follow-up email as well. But yeah, the floor is open for questions or reflections if you have some.
Mariana speaking here. In the meantime, I just have another quick invitation. If for Spanish speakers, especially from Latin America, Spain, and all over the world, on Monday there is a community hour on how to add to Wikidata feminist protest and march, especially the 25 November march to end violence against women, which is a deep tradition especially in Latin America and Spain. So we will be adding those protest events to Wikidata. I will put the link there.
We have a question on the chat about how can contact us in the future. And maybe we can share here our general emails.
This is Kira speaking. Well, maybe everyone's being a little shy today, or maybe you all have covered such great things for everyone to chew on. I think we could go ahead then and maybe just kind of do a closing reflection and just kind of share all four of you to just like share a closing reflection, and then we can go ahead and close us out.
Yes, and also remember that this session was recorded and we're going to share. So you can always catch up on our channel.
Okay, I will start with a closing reflection. Sunshine speaking. Two things. One is also an invitation for people who are on Wikipedia and are interested in doing translation work on Wikipedia, because we are running a challenge to translate the article on online gender-based violence on Wikipedia, which before I think this week was only existing in 6 languages. So we've been inviting feminists to translate it in other languages, because that's a very important aspect of how we respond to online or tech-facilitated gender-based violence. And another invitation is to join the Visible Wiki Women campaign wherever you are in the world. Bring images, bring structured data, add captions in your language, and let's continue to be able to create a plural existence for us on Wiki and the internet more broadly. Yeah, that's it. And also thank you for such a wonderful conversation at +Feminism. This was great.
Mariana speaking here, just as my wrap-up reflection. The work around structured data, even though Wikidata has more than or almost 120 million items or something, is enormous if we want to change meaningfully change the biases and the gaps. So it's a lot of work, and it's a very human work. Many times we cannot automate or collect massive amount of data for our stories from the global majority. It's a work that is made piece by piece. So I encourage you to make it with love, with patience, with solidarity, in collaboration, in community. And our steps maybe will be small and slow, but are super significant and important. So keep that in mind when you change any byte and any piece of an item on Wikidata.
So this is Flavia speaking. I'm very happy to have this conversation with you all. I think for me, the reflection is that working in a feminist perspective with data, it's so much more than simply add data about women and non-binary people. There is so much about the way we're doing, who are we including in this process. So I think this is a good reflection for our communities. And also how good it is to collaborate with those who understand and aim for this feminist perspective on the internet. And there is a very specific work, but also that can be made by people in so many different contexts. And also, I think there is an invite for people to collaborate with Whose Knowledge campaign, with Arts and Feminism campaign, but also, as we used to say, to be bold and please don't be afraid of Wikidata, right? Because it's actually a very a very simple way to collaborate, and some small tasks can be done in smart ways where anyone can join us. So I hope people leave this conversation interested and excited to collaborate with this project. That's it for me.
This is Zita speaking. So from this conversation and from the work that we've been doing, I think I can boldly say that structured data is the backbone of online knowledge, and Wikidata specifically, I would say, is the backbone of online knowledge. And so, if the data is incomplete or biased, those gaps ripple outward and influence how knowledge is consumed every day. And with AI and large language models coming into the picture, once this biased data is fed into these systems begin to emphasize or um, reiterate these biases. And so I think now more than ever, it is very important that we build feminist data, we tell feminist stories accurately. And so we invite you all to join in this work, this important work. And hopefully we see you in our next session or upcoming programs. Thank you.
This is Kira speaking. I really want to thank our speakers today. Thank you, Flavia, Zita, Mariana, Sunshine, for this really exciting and important conversation. I want to echo that invitation for you all to join us in the future. We have that session next week. And then also just kind of a little preview of what we're cooking for the new year. We're going to have conversation featuring specifically about archives and data and how that works, followed by like a Wikidata workshop for archives. We're also going to be working with Wikimedia Botswana to talk about editing Wikidata on mobile. We also have some great case studies coming out of the University of Michigan talking about doing a specific comics workshop or comics on Wikidata. So just a lot of really exciting stuff coming up. We're so thankful for you being here today. Thank you so much to all of our interpreters for making this session more accessible. And we hope that you have a great rest of your Friday. Hope to see you soon. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.